It is a big clash between world number 1 Magnus Carlsen and world number 2 at the time Arjun Erigaisi. Arjun is the first one to arrive at the board. Meanwhile, Magnus, as usual, is nowhere to be seen. There comes Magnus, shakes Arjun's hands, takes his chair, and adjusting his pieces while waiting for the game to begin. The game begins. Magnus starts the game with one pawn to e4. We have the Sicilian, knight to f3, and we get the Sicilian Taimano variation. So this is something which both the players already employed in the first half of this event. Pawn to c4. We transpose into the Kramnik variation, and Magnus strikes in the center with pawn to d4. C takes on d4. The knight takes. Arjun brings out his knight. Magnus does the same. And here Magnus kind of deviates from the main line with knight to c2. That does not give Arjun much trouble. He plays queen to b6. We have queen to d2. The knight goes to g4. Arjun chooses to go for the offense, and here Magnus needs to play very carefully. A lot of pieces of Arjun is putting a lot of pressure on that square on f2, and according to the engine, Magnus needs to make precise calculation and find this move pawn to f3. Magnus does play pawn to f3, the knight goes to f2, and this is the move, knight to a4. The idea of knight to a4 is just to give up the exchange by taking on c5. If Magnus does not take on c5, the entire variation would go useless, and he does take it. Knight takes on h1, and here Magnus needs to play pawn to f4 to cut off the queen's diagonal, and the black knight would be trapped in the corner. But he blunders big time, plays queen to f4, and ladies and gentlemen, feel free to pause. And what is the move that takes down world number 1 Magnus Carlsen in this position? Let's see if you guys can find it before Arjun does. If you guys found it, then subscribe. If not, then let's wait for Arjun to find it. Arjun does find it, queen to a5 check. Magnus quickly plays b4 to try to hide up his emotions, but knight takes b4 comes. And the problem is very deep, because knight d3 check just wins Magnus's wife or the white queen. And look at Magnus's reaction. He is in utter disbelief that from a completely equal position, he is just lost in just 13 moves. The engine suggests knight takes b4 is the best lie, but after queen takes b4, Magnus has to give up even more material, and that is just straight up crushing for Arjun in this position. One mistake leads to another, king d1 is played, but it's just a matter of knight to f2 check in this position. Arjun does play it, the king goes to e2, Magnus loses one more knight, and the saddest part for Magnus is that he cannot even save the rook because queen to e1 is just straight up checkmate in this position. So Magnus here needs to give up even more material, which is very frustrating. He plays bishop e3, and now Arjun can just collect the rook. He's reaching out for the rook, and he does take on e1. Magnus plays queen e5, tries to surround his pieces near to the black king, but taking on a2 is just crushing again. A bit of hesitation from Arjun, but he takes on a2 check. The bishop blocks, and if Arjun wants, he can take on c4, but he's going to lose the knight. But there is absolutely no way to give up or give chances to Magnus in this position. Arjun plays pawn to f6, limiting the movement of the white queen. Now the white queen has very limited space to go. He plays queen to d6, tries to keep the queen near the king side. But pawn to b6, tries to kick the knight back, and if the knight goes back, then queen captures on c4, and Magnus is just lost in this position. So Magnus cannot afford to bring the knight back in this position. He takes on e6, hoping for a perpetual, but Arjun just crushes and streams, takes on c4, Magnus Carlsen resigns, an absolute destruction on the board by Arjun, taking down Magnus Carlsen in less than 20 moves. That has almost never happened before.